Right now, in the world's most elite university laboratories, brilliant scientists are they're engaged in this frantic technological arms race to adopt artificial intelligence.
Yeah, it's everywhere.
It really is. But here's the bizarre part. Over three-quarters of these researchers secretly believe the technology isn't actually helping their science at all.
Which is wild.
Right. So why are they rushing to use it?
Well, it is a profound contradiction, especially when it's playing out at the very frontier of human knowledge.
Exactly.
We typically operate under this assumption that the scientific process is, completely insulated from the chaos and the hype of the outside world.
Yeah, you'd think so.
Right. The expectation is that academia is this serene environment where pure logic and empirical evidence dictate every single decision.
You would certainly hope so, given the stakes. But AI is invading every conceivable field right now, and as it turns out, those pristine laboratories are just not immune to the pressure.
No, they're really not.
And today's deep dive focuses on exactly that phenomenon for you. We got our hands on a really fascinating briefing titled "The Researcher's Race with AI."
It's a great read.
It is. It unpacks this massive, highly revealing survey of the scientific community. And our mission for you today is to basically look past the corporate tech hype and discover how the world's top scientists actually feel about the AI tools flooding their workspaces.
And this is a crucial mission, honestly, because the data reveals a surprisingly emotional reality.
Yeah.
The briefing kind of strips away that idealized image of the purely objective scientist.
Right, the guy in the white coat just staring in a beaker.
Exactly. And it exposes the very human psychology of the people conducting our most vital research. We are not just looking at adoption metrics here, We are looking at institutional anxiety.
Okay, let's unpack this. Because
Alright.
the data we're looking at paints a picture that completely shatters that illusion of the calm, collected scientist.
It really does.
We are looking at a recent survey encompassing over 1,900 researchers.
That's huge.
It's a massive sample size. We're talking highly educated, rigorous professionals, principal investigators, postdocs.
The people driving human progress.
Literally.
Ah.
And given how much we hear about AI revolutionizing the world, you might assume these scientists would be enthusiastically integrating this tech to, cure diseases or solve complex physics equations.
Right, you'd think they'd be thrilled.
But the survey reveals that their primary emotion isn't enthusiasm at all. It is an immense, crushing pressure.
Yeah. The driving motivation to use generative AI for a huge portion of these researchers isn't necessarily a passion for the technology itself.
No?
It's actually a deep-seated fear of falling behind their peers.
Wow.
They're adopting these tools because they're looking over their shoulders, constantly monitoring what competing research institutions are doing.
Just to keep up.
Exactly. And the source material specifically frames this as a technological arms race within university halls.
I am struggling to understand the mechanics of this panic. If we are talking about the brightest minds on the planet, why are they blindly adopting technology just because the lab next door is using it?
Well,
Are we seeing them buy into a trendy new gadget just because their neighbor has it, like a high-stakes FOMO? Or is there some sort of top-down funding mandate from university admins forcing them to use AI?
if we connect this to the bigger picture, the briefing suggests the pressure is actually much more horizontal.
Horizontal how?
It's peer pressure, driven by the systemic nature of modern academia. You have to consider the whole publish or perish paradigm.
Oh, right, the constant grind for grants.
Exactly. Scientific funding is essentially a zero-sum game. If you're applying for a highly competitive, multi-million-dollar grant, and the research team at a rival university claims they're using AI to process data sets in half the time,
Oh, I see.
yeah, you cannot be the investigator sitting there admitting you still do that analysis manually.
It really is a high-stakes version of the fear of missing out. Only in this case, the gadget isn't, a trendy new smartphone. It's a complex neural network.
Right.
And missing out doesn't just mean you're uncool. It means your lab loses its funding, your postdocs lose their jobs, and your research basically grinds to a halt.
That's why the phrase arms race is deliberately chosen by the authors here. An arms race isn't about mutual benefit or deliberate progress,
It's about survival.
It's about survival. It's about mitigating vulnerability. And when tools are adopted out of competitive panic rather than clear demonstrated utility, the core of scientific rigor is threatened.
Because science demands deliberate, methodical evaluation.
Exactly. Fear inherently makes us hasty.
So if researchers are only utilizing a tool because they're terrified of professional obsolescence, They likely aren't taking the time to properly evaluate if the tool is actually effective at the specific job they need it to do.
Precisely. They are prioritizing keeping up appearances over empirical validation. And the underlying motivation shifts dangerously from how can this technology help me uncover an objective truth to how can this technology help me maintain my status and secure my next grant?
Which is a huge shift.
It is. And that subtle psychological shift in motivation actually explains the most jarring piece of data in the entire survey.
Which brings us to the core contradiction here. If everyone is rushing to use this tech because of systemic pressure, you would assume the adoption eventually forces them to discover its utility?
You'd think so.
You would think that by integrating AI into their daily routines, they inevitably stumble upon workflows that revolutionize their science. But the briefing reveals the exact opposite.
Yeah, this part is wild.
Despite the widespread, overwhelming pressure to adopt AI, a mere 23% of the surveyed researchers believe artificial intelligence actually has a genuine positive impact on scientific research.
Only 23%. What's fascinating here is the sheer scale of that disconnect.
It's massive.
We are talking about over 3/4 of these elite experts remaining fundamentally unconvinced of AI's actual value to the scientific method.
Yet they feel entirely compelled to use it anyway.
Right. The cognitive dissonance happening daily in these labs must be exhausting. They are performing rigorous empirical work using tools they inherently distrust.
Okay, so if the vast majority of scientists don't think it's actually making the science better, what exactly are they using it for and why the heavy skepticism?
Well, we have to look at the tools.
I have a theory about this, actually. Tell me if I'm misinterpreting the landscape here. Could this 23% paradox just be a temporary phase of growing pains?
How do you mean?
Well, these are highly specialized scientists, not software engineers.
Yeah?
Perhaps they simply don't know how to construct the right prompts or utilize the software correctly yet, and they're blaming the technology for what is essentially user error.
That is a very logical assumption, but the data points to a deeper architectural problem with the tools themselves rather than the users. To understand the root of this massive skepticism, we really have to look at the specific categories of artificial intelligence causing the frustration.
It's not all AI.
No. The researchers' doubts are not directed at the abstract concept of machine learning. Their skepticism is heavily concentrated on comprehensive, general-purpose generative tools. The briefing explicitly calls out ChatGPT by name.
So they are frustrated with the massive, broad models designed to do a little bit of everything.
Exactly. These are systems trained on vast swaths of the public internet. Their architecture is basically designed to predict the most statistically probable next word in a sequence.
Right.
They can draft marketing emails, summarize historical events, write computer code because they are mapping semantic proximity.
But science is different.
Very different. The researchers express a strong preference for specialized AI models that are custom designed, trained on highly specific scientific data sets, and tethered to the actual laws of nature.
It sounds like they were being handed a Swiss Army knife, which is great for everyday tasks,
Yeah.
But what they actually need for their work is a highly calibrated precision scalpel.
That analogy perfectly captures the underlying mechanism of why general AI fails in the laboratory. Think about how a Swiss Army knife or, say, an improv actor functions.
He's an improv actor.
Yeah, an improvisation actor reads the room, picks up on conversational cues, and generates a plausible-sounding response to keep the scene moving.
Right. Yes, and.
Exactly. Large language models operate on a similar probabilistic mechanism. They generate plausible text, but in elite scientific research, a plausible-sounding error is a contaminant.
Oh, that makes total sense. Because if an LLM hallucinates a statistic while drafting a generic blog post, it is slightly embarrassing.
Right.
But if a general AI hallucinates a molecular weight or invents a non-existent chemical reaction pathway in a cancer research paper, the consequences are catastrophic.
Exactly. The danger of the improv actor in a lab setting is that their hallucination might mathematically resemble a real chemical compound in text, but structurally in the physical world, that compound might be impossible or highly volatile.
Right, you can't just fake physics.
No, you can't. Because general tools smooth over nuances to prioritize conversational fluency, they introduce these invisible contaminants into data sets. Specialized scientific models, conversely, are bounded by the rigid laws of physics, chemistry, or biology.
They aren't trying to be conversational.
Right. They're trying to be accurate within a highly defined, deeply restricted scope.
So we're seeing an environment where university researchers are pressured by this institutional arms race to use the trendy general-purpose AI because it's accessible and heavily marketed.
Yeah.
But as subject matter experts, they recognize the improv actor is the wrong tool for the meticulous surgery they're trying to perform.
Oh,
That
that's
explains the 23% paradox perfectly.
It really does. They're adopting it to satisfy the external pressure, but they refuse to trust it to do the actual heavy lifting of empirical discovery.
Wow.
They draw a definitive boundary between systems that generate text and systems that generate genuine knowledge. For the vast majority of the researchers surveyed, general AI is currently failing to cross that boundary. It cannot independently verify its outputs against physical reality.
Well, here's where it gets really interesting. Because the source material doesn't just leave us with skepticism and cognitive dissonance.
No, there's a big twist.
There was an unexpected pivot in the briefing. Having firmly established this deep distrust toward general AI performing the actual quote-unquote science, the narrative shifts to the one major concession these researchers do make.
Yeah.
And it reveals a completely different bottleneck in the academic world.
Right, because while researchers fiercely guard the scientific method from the probabilistic guessing of general AI, they also recognize that being a successful scientist involves more than just running the experiment.
You actually have to tell people about it.
Exactly. The life cycle of a scientific discovery isn't complete until those results are communicated to the global community.
And the briefing highlights that researchers overwhelmingly admit these general technologies have clear, undeniable benefits in one specific area, which is overcoming the language barriers that traditionally hinder the publication of research.
This is huge.
So the biggest win for AI in the scientific realm right now isn't happening in the laboratory running complex calculations. It is happening at the keyboard, functioning as a real-time translator and editor.
Which touches on a profound historical reality regarding how science is shared. Scientific publishing has been heavily dominated by specific languages.
Overwhelmingly English.
Overwhelmingly English. For decades, a brilliant researcher operating in a non-English speaking country faced a massive structural disadvantage.
Right.
Their ideas and empirical data were frequently handicapped not by their scientific merit, but by their grasp of English syntax, phrasing, and grammar.
Okay, wait, I need to push back on this application for a second.
Yeah.
Earlier, we established that these general AI tools create plausible-sounding errors and hallucinate details, which you called a contaminant for science.
Yes.
So if a non-native speaking researcher uses a general LLM to translate incredibly complex, nuanced physics or molecular biology into English, isn't there a massive risk that the AI alters the scientific meaning during the translation? Aren't they just introducing that unpredictable improv actor into the final, most critical stage of the research?
That is a really critical distinction to make, and it comes down to what large language models are natively designed to do.
Okay.
An LLM is not an engine of empirical discovery, but it is an incredibly powerful engine of syntax and semantics. When a researcher uses the tool for translation, the empirical science, the hard data, the mathematical proofs, the methodology has already been conducted and verified in their native language.
Oh, I see.
The researcher is providing the factual parameters. They are just asking the AI to restructure the packaging of those facts into conventional English syntax.
So the AI isn't being asked to deduce the conclusion. It's just being asked to conjugate the verbs and format the passive voice required by international journals.
Exactly. The researcher can still read the translated output to ensure the data points haven't shifted, but they no longer have to struggle with the nuances of academic English prose.
Which removes a massive friction point.
A massive one. Top-tier journals frequently reject or delay groundbreaking papers, new methods for clean energy, novel disease treatments, simply because the phrasing is awkward or the vocabulary isn't aligned with the journal's strict stylistic standards.
That's tragic. The friction historically hasn't been the science itself. It has been the linguistic packaging.
Yes. So by utilizing these tools to bridge those linguistic gaps, the technology is allowing non-native speaking researchers to format, translate, and polish their findings to meet those rigid international standards.
It fundamentally levels the playing field for anyone who previously lacked access to expensive English-speaking academic editing services.
It acts as an incredible democratizing force for global scientific contribution. It allows the international scientific community to evaluate raw data and innovative ideas that might have previously remained locked away behind a syntax barrier.
Wow.
So despite all the fear, the competitive arms race, and the heavy skepticism regarding AI in the laboratory, the researchers uniformly recognize that removing friction from international collaboration is a profound positive.
It really reframes the entire utility of the technology. The elite scientists don't want the AI functioning as a peer running the experiment, but they are incredibly eager to employ the AI as the highly efficient interpreter and administrative assistant standing next to them.
Exactly. They are establishing clear boundaries. The empirical discovery remains strictly human or bounded by highly specialized models, while the communication of that discovery is optimized by the general models.
So what does this all mean? Let's take a step back and synthesize the journey we've just taken through this briefing.
It's been a ride.
It has. We started by shattering the image of the serene, purely rational ivory tower, revealing a university system caught up in a frantic, anxiety-driven technological arms race.
Driven by peer pressure.
Right. We saw how the fear of falling behind peers and losing vital funding is driving a massive wave of AI adoption.
And then we examine the structural mechanics behind that 23% paradox.
The glaring reality that the vast majority of elite researchers feel compelled to use a technology they believe is failing to improve their science.
Right. We unpack the architectural clash of the tools themselves, contrasting the probabilistic, hallucination-prone nature of general AI, that improv actor, with the rigid, deterministic requirements of specialized scientific models.
We saw why a plausible-sounding error is just catastrophic for empirical truth, but we also discovered the undeniable victory in this transition: AI's unprecedented ability to dismantle the historical language barriers in academic publishing.
Finally, granting brilliant minds across the globe an equitable voice in the international scientific community.
It's amazing.
The source material really leaves us observing a pivotal moment in academia. As these tools inevitably evolve and become more sophisticated, a fundamental debate is echoing through university halls worldwide right now.
What's the debate?
Will artificial intelligence ultimately settle into this bounded role as a collaborative friend to science? A helpful interpreter, an editor, a specialized assistant, or is this relentless arms race on track to eventually replace the human researcher altogether?
That is the ultimate cliffhanger for the frontier of human knowledge. And as we wrap up this deep dive into the researcher's race, I want to leave you with a final thought to ponder on your own.
Let's hear it.
It builds directly on that breakthrough regarding the language barrier. If general AI completely removes the friction of writing from scientific publishing, if every single research paper submitted from anywhere in the world is perfectly polished, flawlessly translated, and structurally optimized by the exact same machine learning models, will the future of science finally be judged purely on the raw quality of human ideas?
That's the hope.
Or, by relying on these general tools to communicate our greatest discoveries, will AI eventually homogenize the unique, passionate voice of human discovery into one uniform, predictable, machine-generated tone? If every scientist on Earth uses the exact same perfectly calibrated interpreter, what happens to the sound of human curiosity?